The Anvil Asgard does exactly what a lot of Star Citizen players want from a ship. There's a versatile cargo bay at the back, a whole range of guns, and it's mostly effective to be used as a solo player despite the size. Building upon the tried and tested Valkyrie, the Asgard has therefore got a lot of players excited. But how does the Asgard perform in-game? I'm Forrester, and this video will review the currently flyable Anvil Asgard, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a dropship. If you've seen other ship reviews on this channel, then you'll be right at home with this video, which follows the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs and profitability, before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead, and if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider it, not least so you can keep up to date when new ship reviews like this drop. And this review of the Anvil Asgard is based on performance in Star Citizen Alpha 4.2. And we'll start the tour of the Asgard from the rear starboard side. Amidships on each side of the ship is a door. This deploys to open out and has a small foot area for dangling your feet out of as you play Ride of the Valkyries, or alternatively climbing up and in and out of the ship from. There's a button on the exterior and interior which opens and closes these doors. Moving past the VTOL thrusters, we move to the front of the Asgard, where the manned chin turret is visible, as are the 6 pilot-controlled weapons. The Anvil theme here is obvious too. Moving around the port side, we'll move to the rear of the Asgard. At the rear of the ship is a ramp which allows for vehicles to drive up or drive down from the rear cargo bay. There's also a cargo grid with 180 SCU of cargo storage. Here I filled that up with some cargo so you can see what it looks like. At the front of the cargo grid is a lot of unused space which gives access to the doors that we saw earlier, which can be opened internally as well as externally. There's also a door gun attached to each of these doors to give extra support for ground troops. There's a ladder for entering upper deck, as well as access to the personal storage aboard the ship. Moving forward, we enter into the engineering section. There's a small drop seat, as well as an engineer's terminal. There's also component access to the various components aboard. There's a walkway that allows movement between the 2 zones, and the door on the opposite side leading back into that main cargo bay. At the front of this section is a door which has some more component access behind it, as well as the main manned turret aboard. All of the components are neatly stored behind some small buttons to keep them nice and neat. Entering into the manned turret drops you down beneath the cockpit, and the turret is located on the underside of the Asgard. Moving further forward, we'll enter to the upper deck of the Asgard. This is accessed via a ladder and door. Thankfully, the bug which decapitates players using the ladder seems to have been fixed in recent patches. In this section, we get into a small habitation space. There's a small bathroom toilet, and on the starboard side, 2 bunks with some nice little screens with various in-game advertising on them. Moving further forward, there's a small kitchen area, as well as suit storage and weapons rack. and then down below the stairs right at the front of the ship is access to the ship cockpit. The Asgard comes armed with a range of pilot-controlled weapons. There are a total of 6 size 3 Panther repeaters all on gimbals, which do a good job of quickly melting things up front. Pilot also has access to 16 size 3 missiles held in a specialist mount at the top of the ship, which adds considerable firepower. It's worth noting that the mount is bespoke and doesn't swap out for larger or smaller missiles. In addition, for scenarios where another player is available, there's also a manned chin turret armed with dual size 4 weapons, defaulting to Rhino repeaters. All of the weapons hit hard, but once the capacitor is drained, recharge rates feel rather slow. Defensively, the Asgard carries 4 size 2 shield generators. It sounds like a lot, but compared to ships that carry a larger size 3, they quickly drain under fire. The Asgard is described as a dropship on the game website, and that's how a lot of the armament is tilted. Notably, the manned turret has better angles below than above, making it better suited to engaging targets on the ground. That said, engaging NPC fighters and smaller multi-crew ships feels very comfortable with the Asgard, especially where possible to leverage the full firepower of the ship. As a side note, the 2 doors amidships have deployable door guns. They're not too useful when engaging other spacecraft, but give a little fire support when deploying troops into an FPS scenario. Despite the Asgard looking like a flying tank, visibility is actually fair. The cockpit is right at the front of the ship, centrally located, which makes it easy to see where to go. The canopy is full glass above, to the front and the sides, with a couple of metal struts not getting in the way too much. Visibility below isn't quite so good, which is a shame for a dropship, but because of the position of the cockpit, it's not too impactful. The SCM speed limiter sits at a surprisingly high 203 meters per second. For a ship capable of ferrying a tank, that feels considerable. At those speeds, the Asgard does often feel heavy, but again, for the size, feels more nimble than you might expect. Of note are the VTOL thrusters that help to provide additional boost for liftoff or arresting downward momentum. Kick the Asgard up to nav speeds and it'll do anything up to 1075 meters per second, which again is fairly reasonable for a ship that carries so much cargo. The stock quantum drive isn't the quickest, but is able to cross Stanton on a single fuel tank. In terms of running costs, the Asgard can be cheap or more expensive depending largely on whether you've been firing off the missiles. An ordinary refuel and repair is probably in the mid-thousands of Alpha UEC, with a full restock adding up quickly into the tens of thousands. But the Asgard has a few tricks to pay off that debt. The obvious is going to be supporting ground operations, where the Asgard makes for a great bunker runner. Whilst there's no dedicated medbay, there is room for a medical Ursa, not to mention plenty of gear and loot storage space. Ship combat contracts are also feasible depending on pilot skill, to potentially quite high level against NPC targets. And the large cargo bay also opens up options. On paper, that's 180 SCU of grid storage, although at 5 units wide the grid isn't ideal, but combined with some off-grid storage at the back if needed, medium haul contracts are more than feasible with the Asgard, as well as cargo trading options. Even the vehicle bay could be coupled with a mining rover to open up surface mining gameplay. That gives the Asgard a few different options to make money. In terms of upgrades, swapping out the quantum drive to a faster option is a good bet, perhaps a Hemera or similar. It may also be worth switching out some of the weapons for options that are less reliant on the capacitor. Ultimately, this is likely to be down to pilot preference. The Asgard builds upon the Valkyrie, which was a good ship for many as it was. The Asgard is bigger, doubling the cargo capacity of the original. There's so much more room for activities in the back, including carrying vehicles as large as the Nova tank, making the Asgard one of the smallest ships able to do so. Moreover, The cathedral of cargo available in the back makes the Asgard much more versatile, giving different options to flex into different gameplay styles. The Asgard carries an engineer station, which, whilst it doesn't do anything now, helps to future-proof the ship, as does the small but functional habitation facilities. The pilot can do a lot with the armament under direct control, and despite the chunky feel to the ship, it actually looks pretty good both inside and out. But there are some drawbacks too. A notable omission is a tractor beam, meaning loading or unloading cargo involves bringing your own, or using some of the space aboard to carry an ATLS. That's not too problematic given that there's plenty of room for one, but doing so sacrifices a little storage. There's also a very large section at the front of the cargo bay which could be better used. Instead, it's all free space to give access to the doors and ladders, but it feels like the grid could have moved forward further. That's a criticism that isn't isolated to the Asgard, but it is still a criticism. Of course, enterprising players can currently ignore the lack of a grid and just dump stuff there anyway. Another drawback is that despite having 4 shield generators, they feel weaker than you might expect from the ship of this size, which can lead to awkward situations of overconfidence and ultimately an untimely demise. All of which brings us to price. A brand new Asgard will set you back $325 to $350, which is expensive. It's a versatile ship, able to do a lot, but with a large price tag. As a newly released ship, there is no in-game price at time of recording. Hopefully this isn't another one that can't be bought for Alpha UEC. And so the big issue with the Asgard is the price for the competition. A Constellation Taurus for around $200 or 8 million Alpha UEC can do much the same type of thing. Room for vehicles, for cargo, and a strong combat performer. The Taurus even outcompetes on the shield generator and inclusion of a tractor beam. The main reasons to choose an Asgard over the Taurus would be for players looking to lean into the larger vehicle bay, an overtank doesn't fit on a Connie, or for players looking to move the largest of boxes, where the ability to load 4 32 SU crates edges ahead of the Taurus. Or of course, for the looks, which is understandable. So the verdict has to be that the Asgard is a competitive ship, versatile and fun to fly with pros and cons, but ultimately expensive. For the right player, it could be worth it, especially as an in-game purchase, but the competition in this space is tough. But what do you think of the Anvil Asgard? Extraordinary dropship, or drop in favour of another? I look forward to reading your thoughts in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.